This is the Horror Scouts podcast. In this episode, we are taking a look at The Unheard. Hey everybody, how's it going? Thanks for checking out the episode. My name is Mike, and I am joined, as always, by Brian.
Hello.
And Nick.
Yep.
And we are your hosts and troop leaders here at Horror Scouts. There are two ways to check out this show. You might be listening to us on your favorite podcast service. So that's option A. Option B is also we are now on YouTube. So you can go to youtube.com/@horrorscouts. At, like a screen name at. I don't know why YouTube does that now. It's something like they don't do standard URLs anymore, or you used to have a certain amount of followers, but whatever. Yeah. I'm fine with the at in front of it. And just a reminder for everyone watching, regardless of where you're watching, our show has full spoilers. Every review we do has full spoilers. So if you don't want anything ruined, go check out The Unheard and then come on back for the conversation. And if you want to be part of the conversation, you can always leave a comment down below.
Or join our Discord.
Or join the Discord. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
There's a link. There's a link to that below in the description. So check that out. Yeah. Okay. So here we're back. We're at part 2 of our duo thing, because we did the unseen last time. Now we're doing the unheard. I was saying to you guys before we hit record that it seems like there's a lot of movies happening at the moment.
Yeah.
What's in the air, but so yeah, I'm trying to think anything going on. We're in April. Evil Dead Rises right around the corner. I'm beyond excited. We were trying to do, because my birthday is mid-April, we're trying to do a private screening at the theater, and for the weekend after opening weekend or something, and they were like, no, we're too full, which I kind of get because there's a lot of movies coming out right now. Like the freaking Mario movies taking up half the theaters, and you can have Renfield and all that sort of stuff. But so my wife Paula emailed or left a voicemail for whoever's in charge of this type of situation at the theater, and they're just not getting back to her. It's like, fucking hell. So might just have to suck it up and go anyway.
Go with the masses.
See it with other people.
Yeah.
Go on a weeknight. That's going to be your best bet for low attendance.
Yeah.
Like I go with my friend Rich sometimes. We go on Tuesdays to our theater because that's when it's like half price tickets. And we go a week or two after they come out. But even then with the half price ticket, there's 6 of us in the theater, maybe. Like, sure, we're seeing horror movies or whatever on a Tuesday night, but
yep,
works
for $8, $6, $7, whatever it is.
I have to figure out what's a good time to go see the Mario movie. Where it was like, do they do really late ones where there won't be kids there?
They should.
Yeah. Midnight showing of Mario.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my big thing that I'm excited for this month. They dropped a new, a final trailer. I think it's called a review trailer because some people have seen it already, but I'm holding off. I'm not watching that one. Normally I watch all the trailers, but I'm like, no, I don't. I want to be surprised by this movie.
I watched the first trailer. That was it.
I did too. Actually, I watched that trailer. Yeah. I very rarely do, but you guys were talking about it, so I watched it.
And it's funny because it's a movie none of us needed a trailer for. Like, we were going to watch it no matter what.
Yeah.
Unless for some reason it was universally panned. But even then, we probably still would have watched it.
Yeah. I would wait until it comes out to stream at that point.
Right.
Which, I mean, realistically, unless you end up renting a private theater and I end up coming to you to watch it, that's probably how I'll end up viewing it anyways, because the theaters around me suck. We don't need to dwell on that, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's the follow-up to my favorite horror movie ever, so I'm going to check it out.
I need to rewatch that one. Not that they're as we had that text conversation the other day, it's not a sequel to it.
Right.
But I haven't rewatched that. I mean, maybe I've seen it twice.
Said it's 10 years old officially now.
Yeah.
Wild.
The other day, you didn't see that, Mike? Like earlier this week, I think it was. It turned 10.
Oh wow!
Or earlier this week, as of this recording.
Right?
And I do want to rewatch it again because I got the 4K from Scream Factory, so I want to check that out in all its high def gooiness and tongue splitting and
all its gory glory.
Gory glory, exactly.
Oh, so good. Yeah, I've watched that like almost every year in October. One of my go-tos.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. Any other big releases coming out, Brian, that you got your eyes on?
Like home releases?
Yeah. Like what big box sets are coming down the pipe?
The biggest one I'm waiting to come in the mail, it's officially out now, so there's a company, for those who don't collect, based out of the UK called Second Sight. They're kind of like, they're a boutique label. They don't release just horror things, but they do tend to do a lot of that. So they put out a 4K set for Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which also got 4K in the US. But they have this big ass box set. It comes with like a hardbound book with like a dozen new essays and stuff and the whole new packaging and everything. So I'm excited for that to show up. Does that movie need 4K? No, but it's my favorite movie, so I'm buying it. I don't know how many versions of it at this point. That's one I'm excited for. There's a lot of the boutique labels right now are in a 4K zone. You know, there's some brand new releases, but a lot of 4K versions, which is great because a lot of them I'm not going to upgrade. So it saves me a few bucks a month there. Arrow's putting out a box set of 5 or 6 movies it's a long box set. It kind of looks like an old video rental store. And the idea is these are the B movies that be like toward the bottom of the shelf. Like just VHS glory days of horror movies. Nice. I have one of the movies in there called Dolls, actually. Scream Factory put that out some years ago, but that one looks like fun. I'm probably going to pick that up. Because I'm a sucker for box sets, whether it's an individual movie or a big movie. Like as much as I love movies, I also like collecting, which I know you two know. But so when it comes in a nice fancy hard box, it's always a little, hey Brian, you might want this. Takes up more room, but you know, it looks better.
Yeah.
I have a list. I do. And I was like, you're going to run out of space. I'm like, I'm really not, though, because I don't know what you can see behind me. But I have some of them turned to display the front face now because I have the shelf space. Right. When I start running out of space, I'll just turn them. And then I have more room. I have plenty of room to keep up with. Yeah. Not that she wants me to fill it, but I have plenty of room to keep up with my purchases. I have a list somewhere because one of my favorite accounts to follow on Instagram is Dawn of the Discs because they're the ones that always sometimes announcing it before the labels actually do. So even if I'm like, I don't feel like doom scrolling today, I'm just going to check there and see if I missed anything and try to keep up with it. So I'm actually wearing a Scream Factory 10th anniversary t-shirt from last year. That's how long they've been around doing this.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
It was free with some big purchase I made. I wasn't going to pay for it separately.
One of the big purchases.
Yeah, one of the. Yeah, so when they have a sale, sometimes it's like, crap.
Not that we have to get too into it, but it seems like because I know you also like to collect posters, which I know you recently just got a poster, but it seems like that's going to slow down a little bit considering Mondo is being gutted. Did you see that Funko like backpedaled a little bit?
No.
Backpedaled.
Well, yeah. So they put out a press release that was trying to make it not sound as bad as it was, but somebody shared a series of tweets from, I don't remember the guy's name, I can find and share later. A guy in the industry that like broke it down of like reading between the lines there. Because like they lost the staff. Apparently, they'll do posters, but to do the art prints that like they were doing in small batches, the companies that make those can't keep up printing in mass. That's part of the reason they're so small, is you can't actually produce that many. And they dodge the fact that there's been a lot of timed releases, so you have like all weekend to order and you're guaranteed one. It's just out of people ordered. I have a Pulp Fiction poster that was done that way. It sucks. And I think this Nightmare on Elm Street one next to me was a Mondo one. There's still other companies that do it well. Bottleneck Gallery, where I got the 7 posters, one of them. They work with Vice Press a lot. Gray Matter Art, I have a few of their prints. They're another one that does a lot of pop culture and stuff. So it's a big loss for sure. And Funko made a very bad move in a lot of people's opinions. I am curious. This guy called bullshit on it, but I am very curious to see if they actually build that space they talked about. That's going to be part record store, part record pressing plant, part like music venue, whatever. It's supposed to be like some 70,000 square, like some massive place in Southern California. Sounds dope if they can pull that off. And it is an insane investment. It doesn't necessarily make up for what they did, but this guy's just like, yeah, nobody's fucking doing that. But they put it out there so they can be held to it, and
that sounds
they're
like
going to get shut if it doesn't happen.
Sounds like what Jack White did. He has like this big record pressing / recording studio.
Somebody else just bought one too, right?
Metallica
just started one.
Metallica started one,
pressing
and Waxwork, who does a lot of the soundtrack stuff, they have their own pressing now. And in time for their 10th anniversary, one of their first ones they put out was the soundtrack for Reanimator. And for the 10th anniversary of that release, they're pressing it themselves in their plant. And it's cool because they show you a little behind the scenes on their Instagram now.
Brad.
The thing, pressing it and cutting it and doing the hand pourers and everything.
Nice.
So yeah, I mean, it seems like they're actually make smaller plants like that for individual companies, but there's actually some more investment going on into the manufacturing now, finally, for records. So,
well, hopefully the Mondo, the 2 guys that started Mondo that have now been let go, will maybe just kind of start over elsewhere. Who knows if they have a non-compete in their contract, so it might take a while, but
that's good in a way, because it gives them time to set up. You take the 2 of them and whatever artists were gone and start Mondo 2.0, whatever the name's going to be. And it's the day after that non-compete clause starts. Guess what? We're here. Here's posters.
Yep. All right. So, got a little off track, but that's okay. This is interesting stuff.
It's related to the scene.
To the scene.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right, so let's get to our review. As we mentioned, this is for the film The Unheard. Just the quick info about the film before we give our thoughts. It was written by Michael and Sean Rasmussen. I'm assuming brothers. Directed by Jeffrey A. Brown. And our main cast is Lachlan Watson, who plays Chloe, Brendan Mayer, who plays Joshua, Nick Sandow, who plays Hank, and we got Shinori Ramanathan, who plays Dr. Lynch. And the synopsis is, after undergoing an experimental procedure to restore her damaged hearing, 20-year-old Chloe returns to her family's former Cape Cod vacation home and begins to suffer from auditory hallucinations, seemingly related to the mysterious disappearance of her mother. All right. Before we dive in, just to get a general sense here of what we thought, yay, nay, or just okay.
I feel like I always go first on this one.
Okay.
Nay.
Okay. I'm a just okay.
I always, I always hesitate and sigh beforehand because I always find myself like in between two of them.
That's usually me, but these last couple I've been hard one way or the other.
By the end of it, I'm gonna say nay. I started out good, but by the end of it, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, so I did too. I think we're all gonna have a very similar opinion of this movie. For the first third, I was a strong yay. I liked a lot of what they were doing, and then it started to kind of just go off a cliff as they realized they didn't know what the movie was. Mm-hmm. And so it started off a very strong yay. It ended a nay. So I'm somewhere in the middle. Mm-hmm. But I think we all are going to have the exact same opinion of this movie.
Pretty similar, yeah.
Yeah, so as Nick alluded to, they don't really know what this movie is because it's half like thriller. You know, people have been going missing on the Cape for years, and you know, the helpful neighbor guy ends up being a villain, and you know, typical thriller sort of stuff. But then there's also this supernatural element, and these auditory hallucinations she's having, and hearing her mother who disappeared when she was younger, and we learn that she was killed in the house. But they never give too much. They never build on either sides of that to make anything stand out and give you any sense of completion or
towards the end of the movie, I found myself sitting there going, what bearing does her former deafness, because the surgery works, for those of you that didn't watch the movie, she gets this experimental surgery, and like 2 days later, after putting drops in her ears after having the surgery, she's able to hear. And granted, that turns into these weird auditory hallucinations and seeing things and some sort of spirit world and all of that aside, what bearing does the main crux of this movie and the namesake of it have on any of the plot or action of this movie?
Absolutely fucking nothing.
I don't think there's anything at all. There's nothing.
No, that is by the end of the movie, that was my biggest problem with this movie. And it could have, but they nullified it themselves in the writing, because you're like, oh, she's hearing things, she's seeing things. Okay, maybe it has to do with the surgery, but you find out it doesn't, because creepy kid Joshua started hearing things or seeing something and figured out how to record them and hear them himself. And apparently they've been haunting Hank, the neighbor killer, and that's why he's killing. Maybe we don't really get that explanation. And you're like, okay, so you confirmed there's a supernatural element here. So, and maybe you need hearing to hear that, I guess. But like in a lot of other movies, you don't. It's just like, it's a sense thing. Like it doesn't. She could have been a hearing. The character could have been a hearing person the entire movie.
That's my point. Is like there's nothing about her getting the ability to hear that has any impact on.
No,
like, you know, they kind of allude to, like, you know, she's picking up these different frequencies that, like, whatever this experimental surgery did led her to be able to do, but they don't give her any advantage or solve any real problems. And then, like, so the final scene, we're jumping right at the fucking end of this movie.
We did it last
show's
time,
over.
So.
But like, so the final conflict of Hank versus Chloe, when they're both running around stabbing each other, or attempting to, you know, she's having her ears ringing really bad, which has been a problem that's been getting progressively worse for her this whole time. But then he does too. He hasn't had this experimental thing. Oh. He made some murmurings, like he's hearing voices in his head in his own cabin, like they were telling him to kill her or whatever they were telling him to do. But like in that final confrontation, they both have the same problem. So like her having this slowly building cacophony in her head that's leading her to like be shaking on the ground, covering her ears, writhing in pain, isn't detrimental to her ability to win this fight, because it's literally happening to the other guy who none of this other stuff has happened to. It's just like, if this is the thing and the thing you're naming your movie after, you can't make it happen to both people at the same time, because it doesn't, it just negates it entirely. So it could have been anybody fighting with a home invader.
Well, and that's just the problem. They made it somewhat of a red herring, but also I felt like the point of the whole experiment is to make her an unreliable narrator in a way. Like, is she hearing these things because of that? But you find out a little too soon when she does a B&E into Joshua's pad, which I have comments on that scene alone. And you find out, he's been hearing it, he's been recording it, whatever. It's like, okay, so you're not the only one. What doubles down on making that worse is she has Chloe has the conversation with the doctor in that really awkward scene at the restaurant, where apparently they don't know how to talk to each other. Actually, no, it was after the restaurant. I'm sorry. And you find out the pills you've seen Chloe taking are antidepressants. And it felt like that was supposed to be some big reveal and it just landed flat. But point is, that right there, that she was on antidepressants and fighting depression and had all these other issues, that alone could have made her the unreliable narrator. Like, you didn't need the whole hearing thing. Because, the first part of the movie, you're saying it was interesting, you're into it. But to me, it went on too long. Like, they did a great job with giving you the perspective of being the deaf person, like being in her shoes. But there were so many scenes of doing it where nothing fucking happened. It's like, okay, we get it. She can't hear.
Yeah. So, but that's kind of what I liked about it. I mean,
but it didn't set a mood.
No, you're right. I'm not arguing with you.
Okay.
Nope. No contest. But I like a slow movie that goes nowhere and builds to like maybe something. Like that's fine. Generally something that I enjoy. And I liked the scene setting. I liked the audio tricks that they were doing with like the really muted things where like everything she set down on the counter in the bathroom had only the really low frequency thud to it. Yeah. Whether it was like a pill bottle or a toothbrush, all you heard was like the low note frequency, because that's a really low range that's not going to be cut out of your hearing as much. Like, they did some really cool audio gags, and I liked that in general, just as this is cool. And like thinking it's setting up for big crazy audio hallucinations coming later, and then when she lays her head on the ground and hears voices, it's like, oh shit, what's she tuning into? Oh, this is a ghost movie. Oh, okay, cool, maybe we're getting something cooler. And then it's turning into like that Kevin Bacon movie from when we were kids, that fucking Stir of Echoes, where like he's hearing voices in his house, and by the end of the movie, he's fucking insane digging in his basement. I thought we were going that way. So that whole long, quiet, slow build of kind of maybe hearing something, kind of not, just setting the scene with like what she hears or doesn't, I enjoyed. The VHS thing I didn't need, but like just the world that they placed you in was good enough for it to then spiral and turn into something. And as soon as they gave that one scene at the restaurant with the girl smoking outside and then just seeing gloved hands slit her throat, I was like, no, this is a different movie now. This turned into a slasher flick, but you've put about an hour and 20 minutes into building it to not be that this no longer works. But so that whole first really quiet part could have paid off, and I would have loved it.
Fair. Yep.
It may have been too long for you. I'm not arguing that, but I loved the setup of where that could have gone.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. I enjoyed the opening, and especially the auditory tricks, and not just being like, oh, we're just going to cut all the sounds so you feel like you can't hear. It's like, no, you can, the subtle heartbeat and like what you would quote unquote hear in your head, even if you couldn't, and that the hum of the blood rushing in your head. That was very cool. But I agree with Brian that like it was just, I mean, this movie was like 2 hours long. Yeah. It was too long for its own good. It took too long to get going. I feel like an easy fix for this would have been like, okay, she had this procedure. Not that there was anything like otherworldly about the procedure, but because this is the first time she's hearing since she was 8 years old, I think they said, like she's super sensitive and like can really pick up on things beyond what most people can hear. So her mother, who's in this ghost world, who can speak through the freaking television and old tapes and stuff, but make that the focus that she's the only one that can hear this stuff.
Yes,
and maybe
absolutely.
it's she figures out through this, figures out what happened to her mother.
Right.
And that
should have been the whole movie.
That the neighbor, oh shit, he's a killer. And you could have kind of ended up in the same place with the fight between the two of them.
Right.
But so mixed the killer thriller and the ghost story, but like you guys said earlier, because both of them could hear it, and then the weird kid Joshua could also hear it, is like, no, it makes it muddy.
Yeah. Like, yeah. So, I mean, she first discovers hearing voices of like that party that she's been seeing on the VHS tapes the whole time when she lays down on the bedroom floor to grab a earplug out from under the bed because she's trying to block out noises. And she hears talking and then picks her head up and it goes away, and puts her head down and it comes back and picks her head up and it goes away. And she takes her knife and cuts through the carpet and confirms it's there. And then, in a very smart idea, drills through the floor and shines a flashlight through it to see where it lines up downstairs.
That's cool.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of approximate the middle of the room, but whatever. Sure. But like,
I'm saying, was that very smart, or was that like, oh, we're going to sell this house, I'm going to put a fucking hole in the floor in the ceiling?
It's that. But like, so then go downstairs, put your ear on, and confirm, yes, I still hear it exactly in this spot and this spot only. Have that, be louder when she goes downstairs and does it, and have it lead to her digging under the house in a crawl space and finding
she didn't
bones.
go further.
Yes, that's what I was expecting.
Okay, now here's mom. Now we confirm mom is dead. Somebody killed her 12 years ago in this town. Other girls are still going missing. What's happening? Like, that should have been the kickoff for the drama and suspense in the movie, not seeing a dude slit someone's throat wearing gloves.
Yeah.
Like,
mom was killed 12 years ago and buried in her own house. Because when we saw that the girl get killed, my immediate reaction was like, oh, dad's the killer. Because we only hear him on the phone. He hasn't showed up. It's like, oh, maybe he is in town, I felt like after they revealed Hank's, I guess I should have seen that. But the dad would have been a cool twist and explain why mom would have been buried in the house had they gone that direction. But
that's true. The other issue with this was that the only other potential red herring character would have been Josh, which, so Hank, the neighbor, the handyman, ultimately the bad guy, gives her a little warning to stay away from Josh. He's creepy. That family's bad news, yada, yada, yada. So like, they're telling you that he's the bad guy, but he's the same age as her.
Yeah.
And mom went missing 12 years ago. He would have been an 8-year-old kid. Like,
right.
Not likely. I guess not impossible, but very, very unlikely for that to be the case. So like you immediately know, well, it's not Josh because it's not going to be Josh.
Right.
So I guess Josh's mom, who we meet for like 1 minute, but she's wheelchair bound at this point. I don't know if she always has been. You don't know anything about her. She's a little weird and off, but didn't look physically imposing enough to be a mass murderer. So the only other character who has any screen time in this entire movie, besides the girl who gets her throat slit, is Hank. Right. So, by process of elimination, I don't know, halfway through the movie that, Hank's got to be the bad guy. There's no twist. There's no whatever. There's no real ghosts that come anywhere other than a TV telling her to wish somebody a happy 4th of July and go back to bed. Like, it has to be Hank.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. It was too obvious, and the unpredictable parts were all the wrong choice.
Right. And every time there was looked to be a twist, it was unsatisfying. Like when Chloe finds the microphone, she's on the phone with her dad, I believe at the time, and she finds the microphone like her house is being tapped. She's like, what the fuck? And she goes to she put 2 and 2 together, figured out it was Josh, and this is going to connect to something else I have a problem with.
Yeah.
Going against most people's instincts. Oh, my house has been bugged. There's somebody creepy across the street because she already found the tripod. I'm going to go unarmed to confront the guy I think it is. And, oh, the door's unlocked. I'm just going to walk in here. Oh, look, there's a dissected dead bird with like fucking wires hooked up to it. That's creepy. I'm going to keep going in the house. And then she gets to some like couple $1,000 command center where he's been playing Ghost Hunter. It's like so many dumb moves in sequence there. Where that became a bigger problem for me is later on in the movie when she had passed out and Hank brings her to his house. And she starts getting creeped out by Hank. The way he's talking, everything's going to be okay. And he was generally creepy in that scene. Mm-hmm. Her instinct kicks in and goes, something's off, it's creepy, I need to get out of here, and gets out of the house. Where was that instinct when you literally walked into danger like a day ago?
Yeah.
Like
and that was the
very
second
inconsistent.
time too. Because that was the second time over at
Hanks?
No, at Josh's house, because before that, she went to the empty house.
Oh, right, yeah.
And just
she kept saying, hello, anyone here? Like, do you want somebody to answer? Because probably going to try to hurt you.
And the whole beginning of the movie set her up as being mouse-ish. And,
right.
And now all of a sudden she's like, yeah, I'm just going to waltz on over there and be like no, your new sense of hearing doesn't give you that much gumption.
Right. It's the typical like dumb horror movie character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she started off good though. She started off being like, hey, I'm in a house that I don't know all that well by myself at night alone. Let me find the biggest fucking knife I can and lock all the doors. Mm-hmm. Like she started off doing what anybody alone in a house they're not familiar with would probably do.
But
got a big ass flashlight and a big ass knife and put them by the bedside table. Smart.
Mm-hmm. It is smart. However, during the day, before her hearing came back, she wasn't wearing her hearing aids.
Right. Well, so the hearing aids only pick up audio and then translate it onto her phone.
I thought that was the phone doing it.
No.
No, I'm not sure that's correct.
I'm fairly certain because she puts them in to pick up the phone to hold to somebody. It was a little unclear, but I'm fairly certain because like if she could hear with hearing aids, what's the point in any of this movie? Like, I guess it's inconvenient to wear a hearing aid, but like if it takes you from literally zero to being able to have a conversation with somebody and not needing to read lips, like she talks about remembering to have been able to, hear songs when she was a kid. If you can hear a conversation with a hearing aid, you can hear a song. But what that's not going to do is play a song and give you the melody on the screen of your phone. So to me, those hearing aids are only picking up a conversation and translating it to your cell phone for you.
Right, but that falls apart when phones have microphones.
Yeah, it's a little weird. I don't know like hearing impaired technology very well, so I'm not really one to speak to that, but it doesn't make sense that she would have hearing aids that helped her actually hear to be a candidate for what the surgery was or to explain how she doesn't remember music or, when she tells the doctor, oh, your voice doesn't sound like I thought it did, but she was wearing hearing aids in that office.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. I just went and looked at that clip and like, was she wearing hearing aids? There she was. So she was. I guess it has to be. That just seems, I don't know the technology either. They might have wanted to explain that because how many times have we spoken into our phone and had diction? Like, doesn't seem necessary, but
yeah, because
so at least that explains that.
Maybe they're more sensitive versus like holding your phone in front of somebody's face when you want to have a conversation, and then having to take it back and read it, and then holding it in front of their face, and then taking it back and reading it. Maybe it's better to just have a thing. I don't know. Truly, no idea.
It very well could be, and it at least explains away my thing. Is like, okay, you're scared enough to carry a knife, but you're not smart enough to just put in your hearing aids. But that at least makes some sense out of that, if nothing else. So I'll take it.
I think that makes sense, but I don't know. When we hang up this call, you know what I'll be Googling.
Just a quick little thing that's related to this. Nick mentioned the earplug. And that was kind of just like a little eye-opening moment where she goes to get earplugs to go to sleep, and you're like, why would someone who just got their hearing back want to wear earplugs? It's like, oh yeah, because this is just so overwhelming for them. It's probably such a real thing
Yeah.
for people
But
that get
also-
the cochlear implants or something.
A brand new nice pack of earplugs never opened before in a house that nobody's been in for 12 years.
Yeah.
Convenient.
Oh,
Yeah.
just like how that flashlight under the sink magically fucking worked.
Can we talk about a car that started?
He jumped it at least.
That was my takeaway from the first half of this movie. Was like, fuck, I gotta get a Volvo. they don't flush the gas. They don't do. And they're like, this car's been sitting for 12 years. Let's put jumper cables on, and you're good to go, girl.
I mean, I was at least happy that they went with the jumper cables, as bullshit as it may be. Because how many times have we seen? Oh, look, the car starts. No, it fucking didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. She like kicks it like the Fonz. It just starts.
I mean, they might as well have at that point. Yeah. I mean, it was almost, it was a nitpick. The way I take notes watching these movies is almost like running commentary. Like, instead of saying it out loud to nobody, I just type it in my phone, and then I have to go mark like what part that was at. And I had so many little things. And when I got to the end of the movie, I'm like, you know what? None of that fucking matters. There's too many big problems in this movie.
Yeah. Was one of them that like all of a sudden this doctor makes house calls?
That was weird for sure. I let that slide only because of how important Chloe was to the clinical trial.
Yeah.
However, maybe was clinical trial the term they used? Or was it, I'm trying to, because when you do a clinical trial, you recruit people. I could have sworn that's what she said, but maybe it was a different type of experiment. Because the company or whoever would go actively recruit people. You'd apply, and if you're a good fit, they take you. So what bothered me about the entire thing is like, this is so important, things can't go wrong, this is how we're going to get our funding and change the world, whatever. She reveals, I dug deeper and found you were depressed and took antidepressants. And you went off of her form? That was it? To do this super experiment? Oh, she says she's not on pills. I'm going to take that as is. You didn't go dig into her records at all, doc? Like, come on. No doctor would ever do that. I mean, we all probably go to more than one doctor specialist, and they all know what we're doing and taking from the other doctors. So the fact that this one doing the super special experimental treatment didn't do that, didn't get a record from fucking anywhere, was actually less believable than the fact she made a house call.
Okay, we're back. Sorry. Quick little technical difficulty, but back on track. So just one weird thing I noticed, talking about the doctor coming over and visiting, was like they had this strange moment where it seemed like Chloe was like interested in like kissing her, almost like not necessarily like coming on to her because she's too timid for that, and like quickly like kind of brushes it away. It's just like, you could stay over, but or you stay on the couch or whatever. But it just felt so random. No previous setup to that at all, and nothing to follow. I don't know.
The only thing I could rationalize was that it set the then follow-up phone call and trying to figure out like, you were just gone and I don't know what happened and now you're not returning my phone calls and where did you go? And then we find out at the end of the movie that, Hank got her and had her strung up in a shed somewhere. So like having to try to make it seem like she disappeared or wasn't, returning their star pupil's call, you have to give like a reason for why she would be ghosting her, best subject. So like, let's have it be like this awkward coming on to her situation and mixed signals, and then okay, she's giving her the cold shoulder. But those two things take place within like 20 minutes in the movie. Like you haven't stewed on it long enough, and it's not like you see Chloe repeatedly trying to get a hold of her. She makes one phone call and leaves a voicemail like, hey, I don't know what happened or where you are, call me back, I'm having some ear issues or whatever. Like a totally normal phone call. You didn't have to have the setup for that, but that's the only way I can rationalize it as to why they included it. Even though it didn't really feel like it needed to be there.
Yeah, I just feel like she could have been just scared by the situation and
Right.
just didn't want
Yeah.
her to leave for that reason.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, can you stay the night and see if my TV turns on for you? Because it does for me, and it's weird. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what she's watching the VHS tapes, which. So they
We're
made
gonna
that
get
up.
to that.
Oh, yeah,
Let's get
we
to
need
that.
to talk. Yeah, I
Let's
was
get
gonna say
to
we
that.
need to
Go
talk
for
about
it.
that.
Go for it.
So I clearly the writers or the director like the idea of bad tracking, glitchy VHS tapes. We can zoom in and make it supposed to be all distorting and unnerving. First of all, just fucking annoying after a while. Like, it's cool once, do a gag with it, but repeatedly through the movie was just irritating. But also,
Are those part of the movie? I thought it was just Shudder's bad service.
yes,
Shots fucking fired.
I
Nice.
actually made a comment on that because I had to write it for myself. Like, oh, I love nighttime rainy scenes on Shudder because they're so fucking easy.
Dude,
Ugh.
like we all have pretty much the industry standard for a good TV that gets
Yeah.
really good black coloring. And that scene where she's running through the woods, I'm like, there's my TV's off. There's just nothing happening right now.
Oh my god! Like,
Holy shit.
and I know
Unwatchable.
apparently AMC Plus is just as bad, so it's AMC's fault because they own Shudder. Like,
Okay.
I would gladly pay $2 more a month for them to up the bandwidth. You can even keep it at 720p. Just give me the
Right.
fucking bandwidth behind it. It's fucking painful. But
The
anyway.
crush is just so gross.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Yeah, the only
Brutal.
movie that seemed to work on that service was Skinamarink. Because it was shot in that
It's
shit
supposed
quality.
to look like shit.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, we digress. So not only is it just irritating, and I get, she misses her mother, she found these tapes. How much of that would a person actually watch? I mean, deaf or not, there's very little discernible audio. You have a hard time seeing who's who. Your mom usually has like a fucking green triangle going through her body because the tracking is all off on these warped ass tapes. I mean, she even pulls the one out and lifts the lip up, and you can actually see how bad shape the tape is in. But she keeps going back and playing these tapes.
She keeps playing the same tape. We see the same
true.
like 3 scenes again and again and again and again. It's like, watch a different home movie. This one's busted.
Yeah, she pulled it out of a box that
Yeah.
was standing up on its side, so we could tell there were multiple home videos
Yeah.
in there. And she
Right.
didn't pick another one.
So, okay. Was everything that the TV showed on the VHS tape, with the exception of her mom approaching to the screen and being like, Chloe, I see you.
I think
can hear
everything
you.
except that and the actual killing.
The actual killing, I'm not sure about. And if that was recorded, what the actual fuck? How did nobody find that?
No, I didn't take that as it was supposed to be because they kept revealing smaller parts of it as she was watching tape. There might have been something where her mom was on the screen and looking off. That could have been real, but as they kept showing more and more of the scene throughout the movie, I just assumed it was all part of the ghost story reveal.
Yeah, I needed that to be clearer. Because she's watching the same tape so many times and we're seeing the same part so many times that, like, I needed to know that that was her mom showing her something from beyond the grave and using the TV to do it.
Mhm.
But there needed to be some sort of indicator that, that was the only thing that was crystal clear when everything else was fuzzy, or vice versa, or, just like something.
I mean, that one was the clearest scene out of them all, which was why I believe it wasn't an actual recording of the tape. But I agree, something a little more clear would have been better. But then also, like, why does her mom only communicate with her in clips from the VHS, except for when they're doing a Stranger Things meeting in the Netherworld, and she's looking at her and talking to her in full sentences?
Yep. Can't answer that.
That felt like, what is it? Insidious? With just like the black space?
Right, yeah,
and-
exactly.
Yeah.
That too. Yep. Yeah. Again, it was kind of like, so I think we agreed, we all liked the beginning, except when we realize it didn't build to anywhere, then it just seems somewhat like a waste of time.
Mm-hmm.
And the VHS gag was similar. Like, it was cool once, cool twice, and then you didn't do much with it except keep giving us more and more distortion. And I guess the tape ended up revealing something, maybe, or the TV revealed something. As Nick said, we don't know how exactly it fucking happened. So, like, you did this gag because it looked cool and it was scary. Maybe it just was frustrating. It's like, do something with it, for the love of God. Like, have somebody in the tape turn and look at you. Like, distort the image on the tape in a way like Mom. That's when Mom turned and spoke to her. Wasn't in an insidious type situation. It was the VHS had turned and looked at her and scared the living shit out of Chloe.
I kept looking for, like, you know, before we knew it was a human killer that lived in town, I kept waiting for, like, you know, part of the distortion in the tape to show some sort of like demonic presence or something in the background. Like, I kept watching the background for clues of anything cool, and there wasn't.
Yeah, not that this would make complete sense either, but I'm building this separate version of the movie in my head, going back to the whole, like, okay, she's the only one that can hear this stuff, and she, you know, Nancy drewed her way into figuring out that Hank was the bad guy or whatever. Maybe she found the tape of the murder at Hank's house, right? He kept it because he's fucking loony bins. And so then she goes and watches it and sees the murder, but Mom speaks to her through that tape at that point.
Sure.
Can't really explain that why, but I don't know. It's
so why the fuck not at this point?
Yeah.
So speaking of Hank, that's the other thing. Well, two other things. That is, what was the motive? Is it just that he hears voices from dead women and needs to silence them? Or, like, he keeps killing random, it seems like mostly younger women, except the mother. And he goes, shh, just a creepy, puts the finger on their mouth and then slits their throat. And, okay, and they try to keep doing that, and then you think he'd do the supervillain explanation, but he doesn't, or maybe he's trying to, and his head's pounding from all the noise, and he can't do it. Like, it's just, I guess you're hearing voices and you're crazy, so you're killing women hoping it'll silence the voices, but, like, that's not explained.
Right.
It's very unsatisfying. I did like when he had that kind of last gasp and Chloe put her finger over his mouth and went, shh, and he died. That was a nice touch.
Yeah.
But then the ending. What the fuck was that? I was so angry. She finally says, Happy 4th of July, back to her mom, and then credits. What does that mean?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
It's the spinning top moment.
Because we know Chloe's not crazy. We know in this movie there's this other dead world, and people can hear it if they're literally tuned into it right. Sometimes naturally, sometimes through microphones. Like, you can hear it. So the fact that you answered back means nothing.
I know, like, even just like pick a different moment of that, because like that stems from the actual moment was on the videotape, the home movie. You know, the adults are up and having a good time in the living room, and then the mother notices that Chloe is awake. You know, she's at the bottom of the steps, and she's like, you know, that just typical with your young kid, like, oh, what are you doing up? You got to go back to bed. Like, just tweak the writing a little bit so it's like, you know, something about saying goodnight or saying goodbye, or just some wording that means has a double meaning with saying goodbye to mom finally.
Right.
But no, it's Happy 4th of July.
It's like you have to try to write it this bad. Or you
maintain that we should write a script.
Yeah, back to that discussion. This is further pushing us in that direction, because the only other explanation for this is they had a much clearer idea in their head and edited the shit out of this movie in a way that it did not get conveyed right. I mean, clearly, as we discussed, there's 3 different movies mashed into one here, and any one of those movies might have been good.
Right. But I wonder, like, how long the first cut was.
Yeah, let's demand the director's cut.
Yes, Lord of the Rings length.
This guy, the director, did either of you see The Beach House?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
It's the same director, and I've had that on my watch list, and now I might remove it. But the writers,
yeah, I would be more worried about the writers than the director.
Right, but the writers wrote Crawl, which that movie is exactly what you'd expect, though. It's a little dumb. It's getting chased by an alligator in a storm and somehow escaping, but like it makes, if you let go a little bit, it makes sense. There's a through line. It's not 4 stories mashed into one. Like you go into it knowing, I want to see the alligator eat some people, and I want some narrow escapes, and it's going to be fun. And that's, to me, exactly what it was. It was a hark back to those 80s animal movies.
Right.
So, but yeah, obviously the writers are a bit of a problem here. But looking at that, it's like, they also wrote The Ward, which was John Carpenter's, I think it was his last directing movie. It was from 2010. Carpenter's worst movie, in my opinion. So again, had I looked at that ahead of time, that might have been an indicator of don't love this. But yeah, they also did one called Dark Feed and The Inhabitants, 2 of which we've never heard of before Crawl got like a theatrical release in 2019. So who knows? But yeah, this movie's a hot mess.
Crawl's the only movie I've ever gone to by myself.
Really?
Yep.
I'm about to do that for Scream if Rich doesn't give me a date soon, because I want to go see that.
Is that still in theaters? I'm surprised that that's not out yet.
Well, it's only like, what, week? Are we in week 3?
It's funny. I was actually looking at theater times for this weekend, and Scream, at least at my theater, only has 2 showings per day, so it's almost on its way out.
Oh, shit. I'm going to have to get on that. So that's completely aside from the rest of this movie. But yeah.
All right. So let's see if we're going to hand out any merit badges to The Unheard. If this is your first time joining us here at Horror Scouts, we hand out merit badges for things we think a film did well. You can see the full list over on our Discord. Again, a little Discord plug. We got a page of them there.
And you can use them as emoji.
And yes, you can. So check them out on the badges page, and then head on over to the podcast episode page, where you can chime in underneath every episode that's posted and use the emoji and tell us what badges you think the movie deserved. But for right now, it's our turn. Do we want to give any merit badges to The Unheard?
We don't have one for sound.
Yeah, so I would if we had one for sound design.
Yeah.
Okay.
If we want to stretch it to say that would come in the editing portion of the movie, although it really has nothing to do with the camera work, or if we want to just, really stretch it for the sake of being able to put a badge on it with something that looks like sound, we could give it music. Knowing we mean sound design, but if you don't listen to this episode, you won't know that.
If it's sound design, I think editing is inappropriate.
Okay.
Yeah, because mostly in the beginning, obviously we're talking about. And I will say the earlier soundtrack, when she wasn't hearing, was just a lot of sound. Like it was the washing sounds. And even when they used music, it had those low tones. So that was very clever.
It was like a weird 80s synthwave vibe, which was a strange choice for music for this, but I enjoyed it.
Well, that's what happened at the end of the movie. I felt like earlier on, the sound, it was much more ambient, but played to the tones of her deafness. But yeah, then it went totally like 80s synth at the end, which was weird. I enjoy it, but yeah. So I'm okay giving whatever is most appropriate for the sound thing. Maybe editing.
All right,
sure.
Let's call it editing then. Yeah. All right. That would be my only one then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. It had a very We have a badge for cringe, but there was only one very cringy moment. It's like during the surgery when that probe is just slowly going towards her ear, and you see that there's a little needle sticking out of the end of it. I was just like, ugh.
I think Nick can think of 2 other cringe scenes.
Sure can. Oh wait, did people die in a horror movie? Guess how? Fucking A, man. Always.
Yeah. I really would have liked to have heard. I wish when she came out of that closet and stabbed Hank that she stabbed him in the ear. Like, that would have been fucking brilliant. But no, she stabs him in the right shoulder, not the left, and then leaves the knife there. Another nitpick, late note nitpick. But yeah, stab him in the ear, man, would have been so great.
Yeah, that would have been pretty badass. Yeah, I don't have any others either, so
All right.
Say that the Unheard is going to get a merit badge for editing, more specifically, parentheses, the sound design. One of these days I will expand this list.
It's all good. We keep finding ways to make it work.
Yeah. All right, so that's going to do it for us this time. Thanks for checking out the episode. Again, for those of you watching on YouTube, leave a comment below if you so choose. Like, subscribe, ring the bell, all that good stuff. And if you're listening on the audio version of a podcast service, we'd always appreciate a review. If you want to hand one out over there, that'd be great. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at horror_scouts. Again, invite to the Discord channel is in the description. And that's it. Another one in the bag. Woo! Good job. So we will see everybody next time for our review of Infinity Pool. See ya.
See ya.